So for my presentation, I wanted to analyze the shift in photography. As a freelance photographer, I've obviously noticed that with social media, we are constantly being thrown at images, whether it's like advertisements, photos, Instagram, like any sort of form of social media. And I wanted to analyze what is sticking out and what are some artists that are successfully doing this. So first off, I think embracing digital media as an art form is essential to kind of the shift in art within the past 10 years. So now photography doesn't necessarily mean that pictures are being printed and framed or we're not seeing them in person at a gallery. Artists are now like creating art to upload to the internet. So I have this quote from, I actually don't know where I got it, but it says, "Photography has always depended on technology, and every change in technology has affected the history of photography, but the smartphone in its nature is a device that is not for photography, it's a device for communication." So this is kind of showing that photography is changing into a different kind of form, you know. We're using it for communication, but also for an art form. So I've noticed that there's a reluctancy to social media's influence on digital arts, you know, whether it's considering if these images that are uploaded are actually, you know, works of art or they're just content to look at. So people are claiming that fast access to art is defeating the intent of the photograph, and this is the new form of photography that it's evolving from this. So some advantages to social media in terms of, you know, whether it's photography or any sort of animation or visual effects, sound, music, we have access to new voices, and there isn't a better time to be an artist at this point. New voices are being heard in the art community, and we have access to learn and study other artists' designs and processes. So artists are able to directly market their work online with easy access to like Instagram and websites and just kind of advertising. But also this creates more of a competition. Growing up, I didn't necessarily have Instagram until I was like in 7th grade, so I wasn't really seeing a ton of photography online. I was more seeing it within galleries and museums. So this is good for younger artists. So as I was saying, there's an increased competition. So there's an estimated of 1.2 trillion photos that were taken in 2017. And more than 3 billion images were shared across social media every day. So this puts more pressure on professional photographers to stand out. So this is kind of why I decided to research this, as I was feeling a little bit, it's easy to feel defeated. So it kind of seems like our relationship with photography is becoming more intimate. We have the ability to keep what we want when we take these photos and delete what we don't want, essentially altering our relationship to our memories and like how we associate with these images. So one photographer that I have loved for a very long time, her name's Barbara Probst, hard name. She's a contemporary artist whose photographic work mostly consists of multiple images of a single scene shot with multiple cameras through a radio-controlled system. So her work is a little bit more interactive, whereas if I were to see this online, I don't think it would have necessarily the same effect as it does within a gallery. And then here are some images. So her main objective with photography is to invite the viewer into the space of the image and turn this person into a three-dimensional place which is represented in these images. So this kind of shows that, maybe social media isn't the best place for this artist work in terms of a platform. This is another artist, probably heard of him, Brandon Stanton. He does Humans of New York. He started with just doing like street photography, but it's mostly like documentary work, and Instagram has been a really big platform for him. He's taking images of these people and like telling their story, depending on what they want to tell them, like how they want to be represented. And Instagram has been a huge success for him, just getting attention through these stories. So he's a different kind of photographer in comparison to Barbara Prost. So this has kind of got me thinking about whether I want to do in-house photography, freelance, or work within a creative agency. In-house refers to anything done directly through a company or organization. So usually this photographer you can be full-time staff or you can be part-time staff depending on the contract that you make with the company. This goes for a creative agency too, but usually when you're working for a creative agency, all your work is done through the company, and other companies come to the creative agency and tell you the work that they want done. So these are good options for, kind of like starting a network and getting into the art community if you don't necessarily have the network already. Which brings me to my last point, which is freelance photography, which is, it's hard when you're a starting photographer and you don't necessarily have that network yet. And it's something that I've been struggling with in the past 2 years because I'm learning that it is a business that you're creating for yourself. And, you have to set standards for yourself, like what you're charging. And, you're basically your own boss. So this research has brought me to the conclusion that I want to apply to a creative agency out of school so I can build a network and, kind of figure out how I want to go about my individual freelance work within the future.